Yeah, I was waiting for that truck to go by. Okay, well, I had an experience this morning that kind of shook me up, so I'll go over it. Yeah, like usual, my experiences last a very long time, but I'll skip to the end on this. Uh, I was driving a. This is a car that's not made anymore. It was a Pontiac. It's called a Solstice, and it was the racy model, the GXP. Yeah, Pontiac. Part of General Motors went when General Motors filed bankruptcy. Pontiac and Saturn they dropped. So, anyways, this is a car that I really, really wanted. I had a very sincere desire for this car, but I'm too tall for it. Okay, it didn't fit. But then it came out with a model that was a coupe, and I fit just right. And I really wanted this car. And so here I am in this experience, and I'm driving it. And for some reason, I had a draft glass, like a like a tall beer glass, nothing with a handle or anything, but I had a beer glass, and it had in the bottom of it, it's probably a 12-inch tall glass, pretty big, pretty tall, but in the bottom it had like maybe one swallow of beer in it. And I had this glass in my hand, and I'm driving down the road, and the road is this is a rear-wheel drive car, by the way, and lots of horsepower. It's a race car, basically. So I'm driving down the road, and in front of me, I realize that the pavement is actually covered with ice and snow and sleet and slush, uh, like very thick covering. Like I was amazed that I wasn't going off the road, and actually, I didn't even get jerked around or anything like that. Like sometimes you drive around on icy roads, you get caught in somebody else's tracks, or whatever. There was none of that. I just was going straight, driving with one hand. And I noticed in the mirror that there was a cop behind me. And so there's a road coming up on my left. There was only one way to turn. I turned to the left and went down this road. And apparently I pulled over, but this cop, he come up to the car and he basically dragged me out. Okay, the basic idea is that I got out of the car without my consent. And he took my left hand, and I thought the whole reason why I was getting pulled over, I thought the whole reason I was getting pulled over is because I had a glass of beer in my car. And so I get out of the car, and he decides he pulled his weapon and he's going to shoot me in the left hand, the back, I guess the back of my hand. And I said, please don't shoot me. And I jerked my hand back, and the next thing I know, I'm wrestling him and fighting each other, and I woke up. But yeah, I was pretty shook up by that because I don't drink. I put that away. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or anything like that, but I put it away. And so the only thing I could consider is that was an aspect of myself that I am yet to be aware of. The want, the 'cause, like that car, for example, I really wanted that car. It's one of those cars that I was like gaga over. And this is before I woke up, anyways. Um, but I also have internally, I have issues with the police here in the United States. I do. I have an attitude about them. They're seeming to me like they're just as likely to shoot you for no reason than to listen to what you have to say to them. Whether you're right or wrong, they're just going to shoot you anyways. So yeah, I was pretty tore up by it this morning, but that was my experience.
That's cool. Everything was there. So do you still have this desire? In other words, prior to this, you had the desire still for this vehicle, perhaps?
No, no. I see one. I see them every once in a while, and I know that they there were some people that had them on lease, and that their leases are coming up, and I figure you could probably get one for pretty cheap, but it would just get me in trouble. So no, I thought I let it go. Honestly, I thought I let it go, but apparently there's a little bit inside of me that says, it was like watching myself in a movie, like watching this guy drive a car, totally unaware is what I perceived when I woke up. It's like that was a want of mine, and that part of me is not yet aware. And so then I had to consider all of these things, like the drinking and driving. I'm like, what the hell is that all about? I haven't. I mean, I don't even drink. Why would I drink and drive? And then taunt a cop and then beg him to not shoot me. I was like, what's going on with all of this?
It's rather interesting. No, I thank you so much for sharing that because that really gives an objective viewpoint. I'm standing over here looking at it, and even though you're not doing those things, within your worlds, you'd like to do it. You see, it's hidden there somewhere. You'd like to do it, and it would be very tempting to do it. So you're giving the experience. This is just an example. I'm not saying I'm right, but if you stand back and look at it, it's like if you had the chance to do that scene, there's a part of you that would like to do it. And so what life is demonstrating to you here is that showing you the outcome, and it's again, you know, it's like beer commercials that we see. Everybody's having a great time, aren't they? Oh yeah, in the beer commercials, and people have seen them many many times. Miller Lite, Coors Light beer commercials. Everybody's having a great time. Join the fun, etc. But they don't show the part to where you become an alcoholic. Most people do. Tap line, and then your personal life becomes this or that. You lose your job, you lose your marriage, whatever. Okay, they don't show all those parts, do they? Or you get a DUI or what have you. Because again, where does all that lead to? So, uh, you know, in the you might say in the meantime, when you have a few moments, life it's kind of like life is saying, "Oh, Chris, if you have a few moments, let's just kind of show you something here, okay?" So, just in case that you ever consider this, we're just going to kind of show you what can happen. You see? So again, there's the icy road, which is, again, you might say you're amazed you didn't go off the road, but it's showing you the danger there, isn't it? And then to the left, the only way you could go was to the left, which is the past. And he was going to shoot your left hand, which is the past, okay? And your attitude about the police and all this stuff, it's there. And yes, it's understandable. We all have those things. And so life is constantly showing us up front to our face, you might say, uh, you know, these situations can occur at any time, and what will you do? Will you make the right decision? Or will you go back into, some kind of drama that you have to deal with? And you can deal with it because you have the awareness. People ask me, I've been asked by certain people, about the disciplines, about the fasting, about drinking and things like that. And I tell them flat out, I said, there's no rules or regulations here. We've went through this. You're big now. You decide if you go out and you get drunk and you're flat on your face in the gutter and you get up the next day and put your business suit on, hey, you have the awareness to deal with it. Okay, fine. It's like it's not about good or bad. It's not about karma. These ideas we've come through, you can handle it. If you charge something on your credit card and you can't pay for it, but eventually you do, you can handle it. It's all okay. It's nothing to be afraid of. So the adventure is there, but again, I would say that life is showing you. And again, thank you so much because that's very personal. But these things are okay. They're not good or bad. Life is just saying is, with that could happen, and it would seem like a thrill because most people are into thrills, but the end result is, will it really be a benefit to you? You see, that's kind of like a road that you travel down. And so people do create this. I've seen it. Those that were with us in the past, I'll refer to them as the Canadians, when they had their attitudes, I was going to give them everything. But when they had their attitudes and they decided what they did and they left, I saw them on the real side. It was total darkness, and there was about 10 or 12 of them, and they were making their own road out of asphalt with buckets. In other words, they were creating their own road, thinking that, oh, this is the road we're taking. But it was all dark, and they were pissed off to see me. I was just there as the observer, but they didn't want me around. They didn't like me, you see. And so I get that. That's fine. But I would just say that that is just kind of like a subtle warning, I would say. You would know best, Chris. You would know best. But that's so cool of you to share that. I love to hear your experiences. They're great. And I understand. And it's not about the car or whatever, but it's how you handle it. But the experience always exaggerates itself. That's why you have the beer there and this and the policeman pulling you over and what have you. And usually the policemen are the boys. They really are. And that was one of the boys. And it was like a warning. That's all. He was just demonstrating something, but in your mind, that was the personal self thinking, oh, don't shoot me. And it's understandable. So we go through this drama, we look at it, and then what I always do is I go through these things too. I go through all kinds of things. Um, I remember one time I had an experience, and this was when I was the little student with the corporation, and it was in Darwin's days. And it lasted almost the whole night, and it was uh, a relationship I had with a girl when I lived in San Clemente when I was 17. And I didn't even know it was there, but it was hidden somewhere within me. And I went through the whole night with this longing for her because she was a sweetheart, and I knew her, Elaine Gravidson or something like that. I can't remember her name, but anyhow, I've tried to look her up, but I can't find her. That's when I was about 17, and her parents had moved from San Clemente to San Francisco, and I visited her once. But anyhow, here it was years later, and I went through this process of trying to find her on the real side. Then I woke up going through this whole thing, but that still was within me somewhere where I hadn't even, consciously on the surface really even, uh, looked for her or noted that idea, but all of a sudden it showed up on the real side. The boys know, life know what's going on and what's within ourselves and our different worlds. It's amazing. And again, this is what's so amazing about the real side and what life is doing for us. And to not take it for granted, but to really see it as a privilege to be able to consciously see this because many people do not have real side experiences. So no matter what the experience is, life is showing us something very real. Even though we don't understand it, life is eternally patient. And that is that no matter how long it takes, eventually it will show up. And this is where many times I suggest to, in this day and age, it's very accessible to find a good psychic or a seer. I have several, and I talk to them. And the interesting thing is, I use many viewpoints. Not only do I have my own, but I get many others. And many times it's the hardest thing to see ourselves. And I talk to these psychics, and for them, they have psychic friends too, because it's hard for them to see themselves. But as I talk to them, I get impressions because we like kind of tune in with each other. It's kind of fun. Like just in this group here, we all kind of tune in. And so I use many, many avenues. I love the adventure of everything. And that's why I'm doing this. This is why I put all this together. This is why the boys wanted me to do this, because I'm always outside the box. I don't go for conformity, and I don't agree to literalism. Okay, and the thing is that I am the rebel, but I do it in a particular way where it makes sense. It really does make sense. And so, and this is the world today. I'm dealing with the world today, not human history when Buddha or Jesus was here, which is just mainly stories, not realities of what is taking place now. We cannot live the past, but we can live now and see what's taking place. So, every experience we have is cool, but it's okay to where you don't recognize the entire thing because, life is big. It throws a lot of stuff at us, and I can't handle all of it myself. I just take it a step at a time because eventually it resolves itself once we have the awareness. And so, again, that becomes the focus, like the sun. When you stand in the center of yourself as a being of light, you allow it to come to you. One of the things that Rebazar talked about, it's like chasing the deer. But what you do is the opposite. You let it come to you. And this is what life does. You learn to be real now. It's not about chasing freedom or wanting something. It's about being now and being real. And when things make sense, guess what? It shows up. Just like Val here found his refrigerator on the street. Okay, so again, the gift is there. Not everybody's going to get a refrigerator from the sky, but some people will. So again, but no, thank you so much, Chris. You're very brave for sharing that. That's very personal, but everybody, has these things within themselves, and it's all okay. We've been taught to categorize things as good and bad, right and wrong, or this and that. It's not that. It's all experience. And just like the sun shining, the sun has the experience of everything. And that's the isness life is. The isness life is so cool. I mean, really, really, really look at it more so than think about it. And that is that you want to pray to the gods, you want to chase money, you want to beg for this and that. Go ahead, go do it. And where do you go? You go lifetime after lifetime to nowhere. When you can stand and be in the isness and recognize what is already available to you, it's a recognition. Do you need someone to do that for you? This is where the boys have, this is the idea of the real guidance to get you there. But in the meantime, I'm like the kid. I see myself as the kid. Like kids like to explore and have fun, and they're the big daddies. And they want to show you, but are you paying attention, or are you all bemuddled within yourself? And as long as you are, how can they show you? Again, it's how many movies have we seen where the parents are trying to talk to the child, and especially a teenager. The teenager is totally resisting. It's like, well, I don't want to hear this, Dad. Talk to the hand, whatever. Again, does that work? Does the person block themselves? Yes, they do. Life is awesome. All you have to do is listen. So again, we do have these wants and desires and whatever, but it's seeing them realistically. We all have these things. I do too. But the reality is, overall, I don't want anything. What do I need anything for? But while I'm here, I will utilize the mechanics. That becomes the difference. So, getting better at positioning myself all the time, and it's an endless process. So being real and patient with yourself. But that's a very good example, Chris. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, while you were talking about the experience you had, there was a series of experiences that I had when I first started getting into this, and one of them was with uh, with a guy that was very just, I don't know how to describe it. The experience itself was very very real, and I wasn't really used to it at that time, but the idea was that I was being shown things from my past, and one of them was a girl that I was in love with. I met her as a teenager, made a series of dumb choices, like what dumb teenagers do, like saying no when she asked me to dance, and we never got together. We never dated. It's like I had the opportunity and never did it because it was like that one time I made the dumb choice and then had to deal with the consequences ever after that. So I had very strong feelings for her for all through high school, all through junior high, and all through high school. And I went in the Marine Corps, and then I was out in California, and I was going to come back to Michigan on leave, and I was going to visit her because she was a singer. And the way I would to kind of give you guys a reference would be she's Meryl Streep's character in Defending Your Life, and I'm the other guy. She's like when. Anyways, a year before I came back to Michigan, she was killed in a car accident, and so I had all of this like pent up desire and longing and all these romantic things. So, anyways, in this experience, I saw her. I didn't see her face, just a very kind of glimpse of her face. But she was wearing a dress, and she was all lit up. She was very bright, white light. And while I was just kind of, and she was walking up a set of stairs, and as I was kind of just total awe, this guy shakes me out of it. Kind of gave me the impression that what I was seeing was all a setup, was all a ploy to mess with me, you know. So I got very scared. Actually, it was a very like gut feeling, like, oh no, what's going on? And I since then I've been able to make sense of all of it. Pretty sure that that was either one of the boys or somebody that wanted to get at me. But anyways, to see her and to see that she's on her own journey, I was able to get through the attachment. I still do consider, you know, where she's like the other day, her name came up in my head. You know, I was trying to go to sleep and her name came up, but uh, it was at the time I was very afraid. I was very new at this. I was very afraid to have that experience, but now I see that I'm on my journey. She's on hers. Everything's fine, you know. So, but beautiful girl, beautiful voice. Everybody loved her, and I blew the opportunity. So,
Well, you still know her forever, so it's all okay, isn't it? So it's just
yeah,
this passing dream. I know it's. You see that in several of the movies. You see that in, Gladiator, and there's another one I was going to relate to here, Braveheart, where his first girlfriend, the guard slit her throat, but he sees her at the very end. So it's all very real. It's so cool that it's still there. It is always there. These relationships that we have, and we never really lose anything. But again, it's very interesting what we go through here through this process. And there's no do's and don'ts. It's just a matter of choice. It really is. It's a matter of choice. And so, because as you go through this, you start to see the extension of yourself. At first it's the idea of the lower and higher self. That's because at first there's a separation there. We have basically a lower and higher self. But eventually it all comes together where you have the total awareness. But it's going through the process, and the process is huge. And so, as we go through many of these paths that we've went through, we really only see a very small part, but we're thinking that it's the totalness of it, you see, but it's not. It's not at all. Like many people become a priest or a nun or something like that, and it's like this is what you'll be eternally as a nun. Well, these people become aberrated after a while because they cannot stand the position, and they do all kinds of radical things because it's really not that. It's really not locking yourself into something. That's just playing a role. There's a bigger part of yourself to discover. And so again, this is where the isness of life comes in instead of the labelization and literalization. This process of being controlled here is. So these things are cute and sweet, but they're really not it at all. But you do still have these things in your life, like if you're a mother, you have your children, etc. Of course, you go through the process, but you decide where you want your awareness to be. This becomes very, very interesting, and it's not that you're supposed to or you have a destiny, etc. It's always your choice. So look at your own awareness. It is always your choice, and as to what makes sense. Now, for me, I see myself as here because I've decided to be here, because I see how life is, and that is that there are individuals in the, we'll just say the lower sense here, the lower levels, that need help, and this is really it. This is really what life is about here. So, me, I like the adventure of life, like James Bond or Peter Pan or Robin Hood. I like the adventure, and so the boys while they're here, they like the adventure. They can do whatever they want. They can go into the real universes and disappear, and many of them have. Again, it's choice. But I like the adventure of being here, and however long it takes, that's fine. I'm fine with that. The freedom idea, that's really kind of like a worm on a hook. The reality is this recognition of the isness. That becomes more so than any idea of freedom. It really does, because again, most people don't know what to do with freedom as it is. They become bored and they start to do silly things. And really, the freedom idea more so is the astral physical thing. Most things are off the astral realm because this is the realm of sensations, and people look for thrills and sensations, etc. And they wag the American flag, thinking, "Oh, this is the land of the free." This is all sensationalism that you're seeing here. There is something so much more so that can't even be decided or described, etc. But again, each individual has the opportunity in life to make the choice, and there is no program available that is going to provide that for anybody. There's no such thing. That's just very, very real. All it can be is hinted at. All I can do is present the best I can what is possible. And comparatively, the world, even though they proclaim, even though you hear the political speeches and what they tell you, and it sounds good in the pretty words, etc., they're all seducing people into conformity and restriction and getting them to agree. It's a hypnotism. It really is. But if you can't see it, then guess what? You don't. So you really have to struggle with it. Just like getting out of bed in the morning. Sometimes it's a real struggle, especially as you get older. It becomes a real struggle. But only you decide if you're going to get out of bed. And guess what? There's a lot of people that don't. They just go, I don't want to get out of bed ever again. I just want to lay here. And some people do. And that's it. That's their life. So, yeah, we go through these things, and it does tear us apart. I've been there. It does. And so to really, you might say, create a position, decide a position, really is what it is. Not create the position, but decide a position to stand in, as opposed to being drug around by these emotional attachments and idea. That's a lot. That's a lot. Just like you, Chris, as a soldier, deciding to go out there, go through boot camp, go through all that hell, and to go out there and then go into even worse hell, you know, that's a lot. That's a big decision. You decided that. It's not that you were supposed to do it or it's for your country or whatever. Those are ideas. You decided that to do that every moment. And this is where we get very real, very, very real. How real do you want to be with yourself? Do you want to get through your fears? Do you want to get through all the nonsense? Do you want to get through all the foo-foo? That's your decision. Nobody can do that for you. Ava and I, well, mainly Ava, because, again, that's why Rebazar sent Ava, and that's why we're together. We work very well together. Um, it's because she attracts everybody. See, I'm the scary guy. You see, everybody thinks I'm the scary guy. I'm strange. I'm off my rocker, etc. I don't make sense, etc. Because I don't agree. That's really what it is. I don't agree with all the restrictions and the conformity and the BS. I just don't agree with it. And I see right through it. And people don't like that. They love their restrictions. They love to pray and worship. They love to beg. And that's fine. All I'm doing is reporting the news. But we get so many people saying, well, what is your religion? And how do I do this? And where's your temple? And all this stuff. Again, people love to drag in their restrictions. And we constantly tell them, no, we don't have that. No, we don't do that, etc. See, they're looking for some, restricted confirmation instead of the heart of themselves. And, these things are implied, but they're really not lived by many people. People, carry their restrictions with them. They love their restrictions. That's fine. It's all a choice, isn't it? And that's why just like Anna showed up here, she saw the book title, There Is No Justice, Only Choice. And that's very, very real. And people try to look for justice in this life. They want freedom. They want peace on earth. No such thing. There's no such thing. These are floating ideas. It's all about what you decide. And so fortunately, those of you here that are listening, you have the opportunity to have whatever you want. And the new you is the real connection to the all is, surpasses all of creation itself. But that's a decision you decide. So in the meantime, still going to go through these funny things here. I do too, because Every experience creates a comparison to better recognize the is once you figured out the formula. Just like a mathematician, just like a scientist, just like an inventor, every step takes you closer and closer. But then again, it's an endless journey. There's no such thing. This is the cool part about it is that like the sun shining in the sky, it will forever be in the distance, but it always is with you. See? It always supports you, but you have to recognize that. It's something recognizable. It's nothing you have to chase. And so as you stand still, the deer comes to you. You see, that's life itself. And that was the demonstration that Rivazor talked about. You don't have to chase it because you chase it away because that's your mind thinking that you're going to get something, when in reality, when you stand in the real you, the real awareness, everything is available. That's where you recognize the real universes, and this is where you earn your way. But you must get through that created part of yourself first. And so if there are aberrations there, those are your creations that you must get through. And you decide that. You decide how creatively you want to do that. But the biggest step and the biggest challenge is to be the real risk taker. And that is, what will you do? Will you do something that no one else will do? Will you go out into this world and risk your life? That becomes the next step. And for those that do, they will see from the is what others will never see. This is real. And it's very interesting. And Paul talked about this. He had the God Worlds chart. And he showed the different levels, up to 12. There are more. And I'm going to be expressing them in the new book too. Um, he had the ninth level. And right on the chart it said, the highest level soul can reach. He was not kidding. Not everybody sees the is. They can be masters in their own right, if you want to use that term. But they don't all see it. They really don't. So again, it's your choice what you do. You qualify yourself. And so, but the boys are always there, and the real connection now is the new you. Everything else does not work with the is. The is not interested. This is what it is now. Everything else is in creation. All the old terms, all the old ideas, gods of man, all the old words, they're all in creation. And you will be shown, again, I wrote this new introduction, Life Levels. You will be shown on what level you're operating from. Simply do the new you. Life will show you. And then you decide from there, is that the level you want to operate on? And if you want to go further, then you must decide how to recognize it. And you must decide how much courage you have to do that. That's all up to you. Yeah. This is the fun part. So anyhow, no, thank you so much, Chris. Was there something else?
No, I can wait. So
Oh, you're
I
wonderful.